Hi, I'm Janine Firpo, and I would like to welcome you to the 10th chat in our series of 12 prior to the publication of my book, Activate Your Money, Invest to Grow Your Wealth, and Build a Better World. Today, we're going to be starting on the third section of the book, which is really talking about how you can work with other people to build your investment muscles and to become a more conscious and values-aligned investor. And the first chapter that we'll be talking about is chapter 12 in the book, which is about financial advisors. It helps you understand what they are, the kinds of services they offer, the fees they charge, and how you can find one that fits your needs, particularly how you can find a values-aligned advisor. And the two guests that I have today were instrumental in helping me write this chapter. They wrote the first drafts of the chapter together with a third woman who was not able to join us today. And I would like to introduce you to them. We have Lisa Renstrom and Kate Simpson, who are both co-founders of a business called Values Advisor. I'd like to join them. I'd like to invite them to join me now. Hi, Lisa and Kate, how are you?
Hi, Janine.
We're great.
So welcome, ladies. It's great to have you. And I'm sorry that we're missing Megan Maurice, who is your third co-founder of Values Advisor. But it's great to have both of you with us. I really appreciate it. What I'd love to start with, because you both have very interesting backgrounds, if you could speak a little bit about who you are and why you decided to put so much time and energy into this company, this nonprofit company that you have, and helping people find financial advisors. Lisa, why don't we start with you?
All right. Well, my background is in the hotel industry and then in kind of a traditional environmental activist. I served as president of the National Sierra Club. And then I gravitated towards the divestment work, and I helped ask and engage many, many foundations and thousands of people to divest from fossil fuels. And many of those who made that commitment came back and said, well, this is great, but I don't know how to invest fossil free, and my advisor does not know how to invest fossil free. So I had a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet. I gave that to them, and it felt very unworthy and unhelpful. So Values Advisor is a online platform that just takes that, times 1,000 enabling in a Airbnb Match.com kind of way, an investor to find someone that really fits their personality, their needs, and their money guidance.
So you actually, as a result of being in the divestment area, you actually saw this incredible need to help people find the kinds of advisors that they wanted. So how long ago was that work? And when were you doing that and recognizing that gap?
So the work with Divest Invest was in 2014 and 15. And then 2016 really was the beginning of the idea of Values Advisor. And I began working with Megan and then Kate. And then the three of us really gelled into making it a reality.
That's awesome. So Kate, what about you? What's your background and what made you interested in helping to provide this service to people?
Yeah, so I first started working in this field actually in 1993, 1994, when I worked for an author named Milt Moskowitz, who wrote 100 Best Companies to Work For in America. Yeah. And so I was doing more of the social environmental research on the companies, and realized through that work, the power of the shareholder in being able to actually transform and make change in corporate policy. And so then fast forward, I started working for Confluence Philanthropy, where I worked on a guide that was impact investment oriented advisors for their members. And I realized in talking to a lot of the Confluence members that the advisor was really instrumental in helping investors really allocate capital in a way where they could enable their social and environmental values. So this was sort of a natural extension, and I felt very lucky to be connected to Lisa, who had the vision.
You know what you said about the impact that we can have. There was just an article about this the other day. So I have read something about Barclays Bank, which I guess was going to be involved in this loan to help build more private prisons in this country. There was enormous pushback on that from a number of different sources. And I read yesterday, in fact, that they have backed off of that. So this whole issue that you're talking about, divestment, or that ability for individuals and advisors and other players in the market to really create change with their dollars and their voices, I think is very real. And we just saw an example of that the other day. When we think about financial advisors, I think one of the first things that people worry about is that they don't have enough money to get an advisor. So when you think about this, what do you think? Is there some sort of a point at which a certain level of wealth at which people should really start considering having an advisor? And if so, what is that in your point of view?
Rule of thumb is $500,000, but a few of the advisors on our platform have a minimum of 100,000. So I think 100,000 is a good number. In order to invest in private placement of anything, you have to be an accredited investor, which means that you have 2 million. And the other, besides the numbers, if you are starting a family, buying or selling a home, going to get divorced, remarried, or just received an inheritance of some kind or a windfall, that's a good time to get an advisor.
Yeah. I actually think what you're saying, I mean, as I've been writing the book and just thinking about this and thinking about my own investments, one of the most important pieces is planning, is figuring out how much you want in different types of asset classes, what your goals are in the future, what kind of return you need in order to achieve those goals, what kind of cash flow you might need. And so this planning piece, I think, is really instrumental. And one of the things that I learned is that the decisions we make around our asset allocations are actually more important for our long-term financial health than the specific investment decisions we make. So planning is obviously one piece that financial advisors can bring and they can help us with. What are some of the other services that financial advisors can offer their clients?
I think having talked to a lot of investors now who are looking for advisors, I would say maybe the most important quality in an advisor, and so this isn't as service oriented, but is the ability to listen. And actually really listen to what an individual's future needs are from the financial planning perspective, but also just certainly if you're talking about a values aligned investment strategy, to really take the time to actually listen to what is important to them and who they are, and somebody who can really be a thought partner with them and really focus on that. I mean, I think the services piece is important, and that a lot of advisors can just check those boxes. So they can have, help with tax planning, they can have, help with, the accountability, financial planning, wills, estates, philanthropic planning. But I really think that, the ability to listen is not stated enough.
I love that you said that. I love that you didn't go into the laundry list of things and you actually talked about listening, because I've heard statistics that a lot of women, if their husband dies or they are left alone with their money for some reason, the husband has been primarily responsible for those monies up until that point. There's already a financial advisor in place. They don't feel listened to. And the vast majority of them get rid of their financial advisors very quickly. And in conversations that I've had, this issue of being listened to and really feeling like you're heard is such an important one for women. And it is not the way most financial advisors work. So for me personally, I think finding women as financial advisors who get this at a really deep level, you don't have to educate your financial advisor to listen to you when that advisor is a woman oftentimes. Not to be sexist or anything, but it does sort of feel that way. So I think you're really, really right about that. And I think the other thing that we don't think about in terms of our financial advisors is getting educated. And you made a little bit of an allusion to that, right? And I personally use my advisors that way. I have more than one now. I chose to do that, to split my money. And I did it primarily because I want them to teach me. And that is not normally something that we hear about from our advisors.
Yeah,
So
I'm so glad you said that. Oh, sorry. Yep.
No, I was just going to say, do you think that's becoming more commonplace that we're expecting and we're actually getting our advisors to be our educators as well?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when I was coaching somebody who was using our platform, and just to wrap up the first part of what we were saying is I really found that I had to give her permission to ask questions of her advisor and ask for the education that exactly what you're talking about. It was almost like she was very empowered and had a successful financial career, but she just sort of let her financial advisor drive the conversation. And it's almost like I had to give her permission to say, you know what, you're actually paying. This is a paid service. You are the client. You get to ask whatever you want. And if that person doesn't actually give you the services that you're looking for and take the time to explain, you get to choose a different advisor. And it was like a light bulb went off. And she was lighter. She went in with a list of questions to her advisor, and he took the time to answer them. But it was only because she had really sort of gone in and said, you know what, I expect this from you.
If I can add one more, it's to enable you to sleep well at night. If they listen, and if they help, it doesn't have to be educating you on all the details of investing and finance, so you can be your own, analyst, but to educate you so that you know enough to feel a high degree of confidence in that the decisions that they are making, or that you are making jointly, or that you're making, are the right ones. And that goes both to asset allocation, to individual choices, and to the meeting of the values that you have asked them to meet. So to sleep at night, I don't want to be invested in companies that are polluting the planet or have terrible employee practices, or that are not contributing to solving systemic racism. Like, I want to know that the companies are with me and in creating the world I want to see. And I feel like if they're doing that, the data shows that they're also lower risk and will perform financially.
Right. So we're going to come back to that values aligned piece, but I want to pick up something that you mentioned about the being able to sleep at night, because I think that also speaks to a level of trust. And one of the things that I've learned about is that you're able to trust what you're hearing from your advisor more when you're at least knowledgeable enough that you can ask intelligent questions and determine whether you're getting the kinds of answers you want, right? So not all financial advisors are created equal. Some are better at some things, some are better at other things. They have different philosophies and points of view. And knowing enough to be able to ask intelligently and then help learn more along the way really builds that trust. So let's talk a little, Kate, you alluded to Values Advisor. Let's talk a little bit about your platform and how it works. You mentioned that you had worked with a woman who was using it. So if I was a client, or if I was somebody looking for an advisor and one who is going to help me use my money in the kinds of ways that Lisa just mentioned, how would I use Values Advisor to do that?
Yeah, so Values Advisor allows you as an investor to come in, and there are a number of different filters. So we have a universe of advisors who meet a basic criteria that we have that is listed on our website. And you check different filters, and the different filters are around services offered, impact themes that are tied to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, asset class. So if you're looking for impact investing in certain asset classes. And the thing that is really remarkable about the platform is, for a lot of the different terms, we have bubbles that actually you can click on, like a little eye, and it actually offers an explanation of what the term is or what the concept is within the filter. So again, sort of alluding to that education piece, you have to know a certain amount to be able to talk to your advisor. And so this sort of is along those lines, empowering investors to learn along the way. And once they check those filters, they can then sort of winnow down the list of advisors to those that meet the specific criteria that they've chosen.
And you talked about criteria. Is there a vetting process that the advisors have to go through in order to be on your platform, or can any advisor be on your platform?
You know that like the back of your hand, Kate. You go.
Yeah, so we do have a couple different mechanisms that advisors can be on the platform. So right now we partner with affinity groups, so investor affinity groups. So advisors can come to the platform through, if they're suggested by a member of a partner affinity group. And then once they are suggested by a member, we then have some very basic criteria, and on average, we require that they have at least 25% of their assets under management already be aligned with values, and that can be, ESG screened or however they define it. They have to show some competency with shareholder advocacy if they're working within public equity, and they have to have worked in the field for 3 years. So they're pretty general, but allow us to make sure that we're not just getting people who are interested in the field for marketing purposes.
That's great. And, one of the things that we talk about in the chapter, and one of the tools that we offer on the companion website, is a questionnaire that people can use to actually ask a variety of different questions of these advisors. Now, if they find someone on Values Advisor, they probably have already had a number of those questions answered just by virtue of the fact that they're there. But let's say I winnow down to a couple of advisors as a result of looking at what you offer. How do I then pick the one? What would you recommend that I do once I get to maybe 2 or 3 different advisors through your website?
Well, the whole site is designed to get you right there. Like, it's to get you to 2 or 3, and then you press at the top of our screen, get in touch, and out comes an email from you to them. And it says, hi, Values Advisor has recommended or has put you for, is matched me to you, or I want to get in touch with you. And then you make an appointment to interview them. You go to your list, your interview guide, or you can download another one that we have, which we include the questions that are kind of already answered on Values Advisor. And then the other questions that you should ask them. So our goal, there are some other online websites where you can find advisors, but they're flipped. Number one, they don't limit themselves to only value aligned. But number two, they ask you a bunch of questions. And then presto changeo, out comes like 5 advisors that they recommend to you, but you don't get to see the universe. And so what we've done is we've flipped it and put the investor completely in charge, and they see everyone that is the universe. So there's no questions. They see what our criteria is. They see which affinity group recommended or put forward this advisor, and then they get to filter. And then I would just answer your other question. You would also go to our space, or the 2 pages on each advisor that has qualitative questions, that have answers to questions that, like, what was the most impactful investment you've ever made in your life?
Wow.
Or what was your genesis story? Like, how did you get, why is values aligned investing important to you? So we ask and show answers that are designed to enable you to find a personality fit, like get the flavor of that person or that firm, in addition to the nuts and bolts.
That's fantastic. I mean, we already mentioned the fact that Values Advisor is a nonprofit. So why did you set this up that way? And is there a fee for service? I mean, do you get grants? I mean, how do you underwrite Values Advisor?
So to date, 75% has been funded by donations, individuals and foundations, and 25% is from advisor fees. So we do charge them a fee to be on the platform because many of them are B Corps, but they are all for-profits, and they will be receiving significant revenues from the people that we put them in touch with. So, and that's wonderful because that means we're being successful because money is moving into values aligned investing. But we believed it was really important to be a nonprofit, because, well, I mean, that's just why we're doing this, to build the field. We're doing this to move money into UN SDG goals. If we didn't have that intention, I don't think we would have the trust or be successful in partnering with other nonprofits.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that. A lot of the work that I'm doing as well is going to be under a nonprofit auspice too. And again, it's really because at this point, the goal is to just help get this information out there and really help people be successful, women in particular, with their investing and in investing in ways that really speak to our hearts and make us feel better about our money. As a user of your site, then, is there a fee for me if I was going to use your site to try to find an advisor, or is that free to me?
We would love to make it free, but we haven't yet gotten that significant of a grant. So right now, and this is just a little bit also to show the value. It's $1,000 to have an annual subscription, but it's free if you are a member of an affinity group. So we'd rather you join an affinity group where they can help you move through this journey and find your new advisor with Values Advisor. And because that's, we believe, is in that community is what is most successful.
So an affinity group could be a group of women, for example, who already are working together toward financial goals or work-related goals or other kinds of things like that. And so if you're a member of that group, then getting access to this platform is free for you.
Yeah, the only thing that we ask is that that the group commits to collectively working on this for everyone. And at the end of the year that they tell us how much collective money has moved into impact.
That's great. Well, so much of what I'm doing and the work of Activate Your Money and the vision of Activate Your Money from the first beginning has always been about bringing women together to learn from each other. And, I've mentioned this before in other parts of this series, but we're actually going to be offering a free curriculum, a 15 module curriculum for anyone, people who've read the book, people who have not read the book, but obviously it goes well with the book, to help you start your own clubs and to begin to really learn this information together, because investing is not easy. There's a lot of information to know just to be informed, and it's a lot more fun learning that together. It's also a lot more fun to work with other women. You mentioned private investing earlier, Lisa. We had a session on that. We talked about private debt and private equity and angel investing, and it's way more fun to do that with others. And I'm actually was thinking the other day that once the book is out, I'll have a little bit more free time. And I was thinking, oh, I can't wait to get back to like joining with some other women and doing some additional private investing, because I haven't been able to do it for a while. So that's great. One of the things that's happening out there a lot in the investment world, particularly for younger investors, is they're using Robo Advisors. So I'm wondering if you have any of those on your platform at all. If so, who, and if not, why not Robo Advisors?
So we don't have any robo advisors on our platform. And really the reason is we feel like the personal connection of having, of being able to talk to a specific person, and the platform works more effectively when we have pictures of people and we have names, and the names come before the firm name even. And so the ability to really directly connect with someone, we just strategically decided was more important than having a robo advisor. And you probably could offer a better description of what a robo advisor is.
So, well, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I think robo advisors, which are online platforms that allow you to make investment decisions, and in some cases provide a little bit of professional support, are often a great way for people who are starting out and who don't know a lot about investing. It's a great way. It's a low fee way. There are some nice ones out there that are focused on values alignment. One of the best ones, I think, for women is something called LVEST, which was developed by women for women. And there are different levels at which you can participate, including getting a financial advisor. I think their minimums are maybe 50,000 for that. So some of these robo advisors have even lower levels of entry in terms of getting an advisor. But as one's wealth grows, and as the complexity of what you want in your portfolio grows, to be able to ensure that you have a diversified portfolio, which is a great way to mitigate your risk, then having a real person that you have a personal relationship with makes sense. So considering where you guys are and sort of the level of wealth you're talking about, having $100,000 minimums or $500,000 minimums to really have an effective advisor makes sense for your platform.
And the majority of our advisors are really between 2 and 100 million.
So some of the folks that would come to your platform and be willing to pay that fee if they're not part of an affiliate group probably have a higher level of wealth and are looking for some specific types of advisors who will help them. In the book, we have, and on the website, we offer some links to other resources that people can use to find values aligned advisors who may not be at that level of wealth yet. But I really believe that women, as we become smarter investors and as we take more control of our money, more and more of us are moving into the millionaire realms. In fact, as of today, half of the millionaires in this country are women. And so we are coming into our own in terms of our financial assets. And I know a lot of younger women who are starting out have aspirations to get there, right? So this is a progressive thing where one type of support is good for you at one point in your wealth journey, and other types of support are there for you in later parts of your wealth journey. We've talked a lot about financial advisors per se, but there are also other types of professional support individuals, or just other types of professional support that we may need along the way with our as our assets grow. What are some of those other types of support that people may want to think about?
Well, there's consultants of every stripe. There's consultants who will help you find a financial advisor. There's specialists in sourcing and performing due diligence on private companies. There are people who will help you measure, define and measure, and then manage your impact. There's people who will help with legacy planning, proxy voting, shareholder activism, which is the way that you can invest in public markets and have impact. And then, of course, there's tax and accounting and legal. I think that the financial advisor is your quarterback.
Right.
And then I hate sports analogies. Why did I use that?
It's your general contractor.
Right. It's yeah. There you go.
Contractor.
But and you sometimes one assumes that you can only engage a financial advisor for a fee and assets under management percent, but you can also, many of them also will do project kind of work with you.
Right, which can be really valuable, particularly that planning piece, to sort of have somebody help plan with you what your asset allocation should be, what your goals should be, how to figure all of that out.
Oh, and I just have to share, I was recently spoke to a consultant in family legacy kind of planning, and I asked him about his fees, and he said, well, I'm at the stage in life where everything really has been paid forward. So when we're done, if you could just pay me what you think would be right so that others can still continue to afford my services.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, it was lovely.
That's great. Wonderful to hear. So before we wrap up, I was just wondering, I'd love to hear your visions of, if you fast forward 10 or 20 years, where do you hope we'll be in terms of values aligned investing?
Well, I'll start. And I think I probably speak for both of us or maybe all three of us, that it will be the norm, that there's so much research coming out about not only is values aligned investing the right thing to do from an ethical, moral standpoint, if you're concerned about climate change or environmental concerns or how employees are treated, but it also makes more financial sense. And so I think we're starting to see the industry move in that direction, where regardless of where you stand on any particular issue, you're starting to do that as an additional layer of research, because it's a risk factor. And so I think one, I think it just becomes the norm from a financial management perspective. And then two, that, I think the way the field is structured right now, and just even in this conversation where we're talking about advisors, it's there's a threshold to enter in the field right now. And so I think what would be amazing in 20 years or even 10 years or even 5 years is that it just is accessible to all investors. So the retire in your retirement account, the norm is that you have a variety of different environmentally, social, governance, ESG aligned investments or value aligned investments.
Yeah, I would, because of my work in climate change, I have short horizons, and I would like to see, every green bond that is offered in the next 18 months be bought immediately. And I would like to see what you were saying, where a bank pulled out of underwriting the building of some private prisons because of their track record. I would like to see banks and people unwilling to provide capital to anything that is going to further the destruction of, you know, our lives the way we like, the way we live them, what we would like to live them. So in our Values Advisors vision, we say that values aligned investing is the norm, and that capital markets are building a regenerative economy. So just that all money, which is like the blood, you know, in our circulatory system, that all money is bringing oxygen to everything and no poison.
Well, I think that we as women definitely have the opportunity to put our money to work in the things that matter to us. And since there's so much of the capital does sit with us and will increasingly be that way, we really have the power and the potential to start to make the kinds of changes that you're talking about. And so I really look forward to that. So with that, I would love to thank you both for all the work you've done. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for the help with the book and with this chapter. Could not have written it without the three of you. I'm so appreciative of that. And I think you are another example of how women are leading in this space around values aligned investing. You are helping make it easier for all of us to find the investors that are really going to speak to the goals and the objectives that we have, both financially and in terms of the change we want to see. So thank you both so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Janine. And
go ahead, please.
I just want to make the call out. We all have some, we have a fourth partner in this is Ian Brunell. So we do have our male energy counterpart in our team that has been, that it's important that we mention him.
Well, I love that. I did not know that. So I'm glad you added that. And, you know, really, although much of what I've done has been focused on women, and the vast majority of participants in this project have been women, there have been some men. And, you know, I want to be really clear that what I'm about and what this work is not about excluding men by any stretch of the imagination. And they're more than welcome to this conversation as well. But it's focused on women because we have been left out of this conversation for such a long time. And our emphasis is a little different. And so I just feel like we deserve to have the conversation directed a little bit towards some of the things that we want it directed toward. And so that's focus on.
Well said.
But this has been a great conversation about financial advisors. And next week, we'll be moving to a chapter that's all about our retirement accounts. And as Kate had mentioned, retirement accounts, it will not only, that chapter looks at our traditional accounts, it also speaks to how we can work with our employers to get them to bring values alignment into our retirement accounts. And it talks about two very special kinds of retirement accounts, something called a self-directed IRA and a solo 401k, which are very little known instruments, but that allow us to do really innovative things with our retirement funds. And so next week, we're going to be talking to an expert in those types of funds, as well as a woman who has used her retirement accounts in very innovative and creative ways. So please join us again next week for coming close to the conclusion of our series and the publication of the book. So thank you for being with us this week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.